One might think that if you work in the Trump administration, you'd be pretty good at discretion around your crimes. And yet, that doesn't seem to be the case with Trump's Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. He took to Twitter writing, "Of course the outgoing Biden IRS rushed an audit of the incoming Secretary of Defense. Total sham. The party of norms and decency strikes again. We will never back down." And he posted a photo of his audit showing that he owes over $33,000 in taxes. Now look, I obviously don't know the intricacies, but the story that Pete Hegseth is trying to convince you all of is that of all the people nominated for cabinet roles in Trump's administration, the only one to get audited was him. Not the richest guy in the world, Elon Musk, not the president himself, not RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard or Kash Patel, just Pete Hegseth. And his amount due would not be millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, but $33,000. In other words, the federal government was overtaken and weaponized against one random guy for 33 grand. That's what the evil Marxist communist Democrats did with the IRS at their disposal. They sought $33,000 from just one impending Trump cabinet secretary. Are you convinced yet? Didn't think so. But if you live in Trump world where everyone is a perpetual victim, then this makes perfect sense. If you get audited because you didn't pay your taxes, then it's actually a witch hunt. It's the evil Democrats taking one last swipe at you before they leave. It's the weaponization of government. It's definitely totally not a valid audit. It must be nefarious activity because these people only exist to serve as martyrs, perpetually in the fetal position and forever unwilling to take responsibility for their own actions. Because something, party of personal responsibility. And so here's what I presume will happen. Now that Hegseth has planted his flag on his own audit being an instance of weaponized government, these Republicans will all collectively pretend that he's being unfairly targeted and they'll make the audit go away. And I want to be clear, they all know that they're doing make-believe, very much in the same way that they knew that Trump's 2020 rigged election claims were also make-believe. They all know the truth behind the scenes. We've already seen their text messages admitting as much, but that doesn't mean they still didn't perpetuate the lie for their gullible fans who didn't know any better. But it's not about what's real or not. It is about perpetuating the narrative. It is about fooling the rubes in the Republican base. It's about manipulating their gullible supporters into serving as shields while they get rich, while they refuse to follow the law. Let's be clear, Trump supporters will still have to pay their taxes. Nothing's going to change for them. But Hegseth is going to be perfectly content to use those people as pawns to drum up sympathy for him so that he doesn't have to follow the rules. Convenient, huh? So will Hegseth pay his taxes? I can't say for sure, but if I had $100,000 to gamble on it, I would put $99,999 on Hegseth not paying a dime. Why? Because he'll pretend that simply paying his taxes is some partisan witch hunt against him. But let me ask you a question, left, right, or center. You realize that if he simply got caught cheating on his taxes, that's money out of your pockets, right? Out of all of our pockets, right? That's less money funding programs that you all use, whether it's funding for states, for law enforcement, for our military, for healthcare, for cancer research, for education, money that would pay down the debt, which Republicans pretend to care about. Hegseth is trying to curry sympathy from people who follow the law so that he doesn't have to follow the law. He needs the rubes to defend him so that he doesn't have to play by the same rules as those very rubes. And it's not just Hegseth, by the way. There is a reason that Elon and Doge are going after the IRS right now. The IRS is now laying off thousands of workers. And keep in mind, Republicans will pretend that the IRS agents are there to audit all Americans. Not true in the slightest. You want to know what the extra funding for the IRS from the Inflation Reduction Act actually went to? Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act resources, the IRS delivered dramatically improved services in filing season 2023. The IRS achieved 87% level of service, exceeding Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen's goal of 85%. The agency also answered 2 million more calls through line assistance, cut phone wait times to 4 minutes from 27 minutes, served 100,000 more taxpayers in person, digitized 80 times more returns than in 2022 through the adoption of new scanning technology, cleared the backlog of unprocessed 2022 individual tax returns with no errors, launched 2 new digital tools, and enabled a new direct deposit refund option. This marks a vast improvement over 2022 when, due to a lack of resources, the IRS hit just 15% level of service to taxpayers and millions of refunds were delayed for months. That right there is what funding to the IRS actually does. But now Trump's billionaire cabinet wants to disband the IRS because they don't want to pay their taxes. And they know that a crippled IRS means less enforcement for tax cheats. And if you're wondering whether they're cheating on their taxes, again, Exhibit A. So the consequences of defunding the IRS is that us normal people will have less support, fewer people answering calls, longer wait times, more errors on our returns, but the ultra-wealthy won't get audited. So our experience will get markedly worse, also that they can have an experience that is leagues better. We all take the bullet so that the millionaires and billionaires can thrive. But hey, populist champions, am I right? And all of this would have been a little easier to swallow if Hegseth was at least good at his job. But yeah, he's not good at his job.
As President Trump has said, but it's not enough. Nor is 3%, nor is 4%, more like 5%. Real investment, real urgency. We can talk all we want about values. Values are important. But you can't shoot values. You can't shoot flags, and you can't shoot strong speeches. There is no replacement for hard power. As much as we may not want to like the world we live in some cases, there's nothing like hard power.
But you can't shoot values. It's like they made a Facebook comment section a person and gave him a security clearance. And clearly, the administration is aware of his incompetence, which is why this is the busy work that he's being given.
There it is. Pursuant to the authority of the Secretary of Defense, Title 10, United States Code, Section 113, I direct the Army to change the name of Fort Liberty, North Carolina, to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's right, Bragg is back.
That is what they've got this guy doing. Hegseth was relegated to cooking up Fox News culture war fodder as defense secretary, while the competent adults actually run the military, which, to their credit, is a better plan than actually letting Hegseth do anything of consequence. And by the way, nothing says America first quite like renaming our military bases after soldiers who fought for the Confederacy against the United States. Why not just rename Washington, D.C. for Benedict Arnold, since you are so hell-bent on elevating people who wanted to destroy the United States? So look, these administration officials will do the bare minimum to continue pretending that they're doing something, even if it's just throwing red meat to the base in the form of renaming military bases. But the reality is that this cabinet of mostly billionaires is there for one reason: to help themselves, their friends, their family, their donors, and the rest of their tax bracket get as rich as humanly possible. The culture wars are a necessary component because it keeps the rubes in the base nice and distracted. But let's be clear, they don't actually give a shit what military bases are called. That is the shiny object they offer up for the audience. Their only priority is the sole thing that Donald Trump accomplished in his first term, a tax cut for the ultra-wealthy. It's going to be the main legislative priority in this term as well. Mark my words, the Republicans will go to the mat to make sure that these tax cuts are permanent. Not because it's going to help regular Americans, it won't, but rather because it will help themselves. They are using you to help them, and then trying to convince you that somehow you're the ones who are better off because of it. You are there in service of them and not the other way around. They know that. They're just hoping that you don't. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.